Hello, everybody. Tim Dwyer here from South Australia. How you doing? Well, once again, I've got my beautiful, beautiful backdrop, those beautiful snow gums and the craggy, rocket, jagged edges of the cliff faces coming down to the river. And this is up in the Flinders Ranges, and it is beautiful. Guys, pretty important subject today. It has I've been for a long time on this channel and previously on my YouTube channel, trying to educate people as to what our Constitution says and how it's been usurped, mongrelized, and bastardized by people of low moral character. And it continues, but it continues to get worse. And it appears that although there are some of you who pay attention, many of you just let it go to the keeper. Well, maybe this might shake a few of you up. Firstly, let me say thank you so much to those kind and generous souls who have donated to our page on ourtrueaustralia.com. We thank you, and it really does mean a lot to us. We put an enormous amount of time into research and study and everything else, and that is time that takes away from earning dollars to keep body and soul tied together. So thank you. Thank you so much. So let me now move on. Our Constitution is there to restrict the legitimate government, but it carries no restrictions on the unlawful corporate government that we now suffer under. It only restricts legitimate government, which we have none of. We have been usurped, and it's been done magnificently, and it covers every aspect of government, federal, state, local councils. Then it goes into the courts, and every organ of justice has been usurped and therefore operating outside of our lawful constitution. So to try and effect a proper remedy, the courts will not suffice. Why? Because they are in the pay packet of those who have usurped our constitution. The federal court, the Supreme Court, the Magistrates Court, well, that's just a joke. And then you go to the High Court, which was meant to protect our constitution from all sorts of skullduggery. However, it appears that the skullduggery has affected them, and they have no interest in protecting you or I or our magnificent constitution. I want to show you now a small part of what's going on in Western Australia. Now, I do have a big video to make, but I'm just going to do a small one here just to help people understand what the hell is going on in our country. Over here on the right side, we have the Australian government and this gold coiny looking thing. It's meant to be the Great Seal of Australia. It is not. It is the Great Seal of the corporation of the Australian government. You see, Bunnings Corporation has a seal also, as does McDonald's, as does every company that's listed. They must have a corporate seal. Now, the constitution that the corporations have, Bunnings have their own corporate constitution, so does McDonald's, and so does the Australian government. Do not get it confused with our founding document. It is not the same. And those constitutions can only be effective on the shareholders and employees of that corporation, of that company. It has no effect on you. You and I can walk past Bunnings and pay no attention to it. Same with McDonald's. And by right, we should be able to do it with this mob here because they are just a corporation. However, they have changed the rules a little. Let's have a look. In Western Australia, this was their original seal, their original emblem of Western Australia up until the early 50s, when they altered their constitution and altered their seal to the corporate seal of Western Australia. This is the corporation seal of that is purporting to be government. And every state has done the same. Changed their original seal of their original constitutions, which they came into the Commonwealth with. So let's see what's going on in Western Australia. Before we do, sorry, I forgot about this slide. Did you know there are two Commonwealths? And if not, why not? As there are two Commonwealths, a corporate Commonwealth and an original non-corporate Commonwealth, this is clearly defined in the Public Governance Performance and Accountability Act of 2013. In there, they state in the small print that the corporate Commonwealth entities are legally separate from the Commonwealth, and the non-corporate Commonwealth entities are part of the Commonwealth. Now, let me explain this. To have a Commonwealth, you have to have a Commonwealth of states. So the states became corporate entities, as well as the entities within the corporate government structure. You cannot have a corporate Commonwealth without having corporate states, and we'll get to that in a minute. Now, as there are two separated by law, right, is it possible to be in both? Can you be a corporation and a non-corporation? Can you be a corporate Commonwealth and a non-corporate Commonwealth at exactly the same time? No. The answer is no. Simple. So we have a corporate Commonwealth. That's why they've got their corporate seal. That's why the states have their own corporate seals. And they are totally outside of our constitutional law of 1900 UK as proclaimed and gazetted. Period. End of story. Now, in Western Australia, this is how good it is. Over 1,000 firearms have been taken from Western Australian people because they have a view that opposes the corporate state. It has been done in the name of keeping people safe. You know, you remember that. Stay home, keep people safe. Don't travel, keep people safe. Stand 1.5 meters apart, keep people safe. Wear a mask, keep people safe. Take a jab, keep people safe. So you've heard that story. But look at this. Throughout history, governments have understood this. Every state power has known that in order to subjugate the people, those people must be disarmed. A house, after all, is like a fortification when its occupants are armed, and without arms, the occupants of a home are more like prey in a trap when police descend on them. History is full of examples of governments disarming their citizens with the promise that they will be protected by the state, only to be brutally betrayed. What follows is a litany of blood that has not been taught in American high schools in nearly 100 years, nor in Australian high schools ever. Let's have a look at this. In 1911, in Turkey, they disarmed them. 1.4 million Armenians were slaughtered because they couldn't defend themselves. In 1929, the Russian citizens were disarmed. 20 million Russians were murdered because they didn't have a gun to defend themselves. In China, the citizens were disarmed in 1935, and 20 million Chinese were killed because they could not defend themselves. In Germany, the citizens were disarmed, and my wife's parents were Dutch, and my father-in-law told me how the Germans came to the Dutch, to the towns, went to the town hall, got the registry of where all the guns were, went and seized the guns, and then the army came through because there was nobody to resist them because they were disarmed. 6 million Jews were murdered. In Cambodia in 1956, the citizens were disarmed. 1 million intellectuals were killed because they couldn't defend themselves against the tyranny of the state. In Guatemala, the citizens were disarmed. 100,000 Mayan Indians were massacred because they couldn't defend themselves against the state militia. And in 1970, Uganda citizens were disarmed and 300,000 Christians were put to death because they had a view that was different to the state. The Statute Law Revision Act of 1973, under the Crimes Act, said that they will omit from paragraph 1 the Great Seal of the Commonwealth and insert the Great Seal of Australia, creating the beginning of the Corporation of Australia with its incorporated states. They did it with the stroke of a pen. In section 114 of the founding document, the Constitution of the Commonwealth states that a state shall not, without consent of the Parliament of the Commonwealth, raise or maintain any naval or military force. And I can tell you right now that the consent of the Parliament of the Commonwealth has not been in action since 1973. And these people here do not look like police to me. They look like military. They look like a militia. That is how good Australia has become, how far we have fallen. We now have state-organised militia. In Western Australia, the police force, their ABN number is 91724 684 688. This is the boss, he's the commissioner, and this guy is running a state-based militia outside of our founding document, the Constitution of the Commonwealth. And he says that they took the 1,000 weapons because the people did not line up with the view of the state. The state has corporate laws, not constitutional laws. If the state wants to go back and have constitutional-based laws as per our founding document, then the people would have no issue. But because the corporation is breaking the law, this is where people have the issue. You do know we do have the two commonwealths, a corporate commonwealth and a non-corporate commonwealth. These people are not lawful under the founding document. They are committing treachery against the Commonwealth, as well as breaching the International Charter of Human Rights by taking away the people's protection to be able to protect their own homes, protect their own life, and have self-defense. Is it right that the only people that should have guns to protect themselves are the police and the government and the military? Should not the people in their homes be able to protect themselves? We have seen what history says. We've seen what history does. Are these people lining up now to kill tens of thousands of Australian people because we have a different view? Are we not entitled to a different political stance than the Labor Party, than the communists, than the humanists, the socialists, the barbarians? Are we not allowed to have a different view? Are we at risk of being slaughtered? If they take away our weaponry, that's what's going to happen. This is just a short list of some of the crimes that the government has recently committed. They've unlawfully put in the Queen of Australia. They've unlawfully put in the Australia Act. They unlawfully put in the Local Government Act, the local government bodies, the private corporations of government, the Great Seal of Australia, the Great Seals of all the states. The Governor-General's unlawful. The Prime Minister is actually unlawful, and so is every member of Parliament because they have not sworn their lawful oaths. The Parliament members, the judges and courts, and the police force who enforce the unlawful government rules. What do we do about this? Well, yeah, they'll take away your guns and they'll call us names. You see, they call us sovereign citizens. I'm not a sovereign citizen. That's the impossibility in this country to be a sovereign citizen. These people have a very poor grasp on the English language, one would think. However, doesn't stop them from calling us cookers and all sorts of things from the seat of Parliament. However, However, remember this bit. It is only through the consent, either granted or implied, that they can do what they do. Once you and I literally withdraw our consent en masse, there is not a bloody thing they can do. I will tell you right now, there is a time coming where I believe that en masse, millions of people in this country will withdraw their consent and force them out. My name's Tim Dwyer. Understand this, that if they've done it in other countries, they'll do it in this country. We have lunatics at the helm. We have psychopaths in Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. The day is coming, I am sure. All the signs are there. You have a great day. You just keep smiling. Keep your vibration high. Keep humming those happy tunes and sing Waltzing Matilda as you do your day's work. See you soon.